Chapter 7. After my father left for good, my mother and I began to speak a new language. It was the same old English, except we somehow needed more words to work around all the ones we could not say. It reminded me of this skit from a comedy show we'd all loved when I was a kid, something Grandma Rose had taped from the BBC. Two priests sitting on a bench, unable to recall a particular name. You know, what's his name? Walks on water. I couldn't even say all the words to Dr. Jacinta. She was my new doctor, a bespectacled Argentinian whose concern for me brimmed visibly in her eyes. I did not feel all that fucked up, but Dr. Jacinta seemed always on the verge of tears, her voice suffused with maternal concern as I recapitulated my week as a senior at St. Anne's. The boys, the cutters, the SATs, the humiliation of being the last person at my school to fill in the blank. It was all crushingly boring even to me. That much was because everyone knew that everyone in the world, in the history of mankind, had gone through this. It is called a phase for a reason, I said. This made my mother laugh, but seemed only to disconcert Dr. Jacinta. That poor woman with her pink spectacles and her slight lisp and her crusted makeup, she had fully taken on board my belief that my brother was dead, not missing. And even though that was probably for therapeutic reasons and not trust ones, this made me like her more. This also meant that she absorbed each word of our sessions like a blow to her very soul. Whenever the door to her office closed behind me, I would make my way back into my thicket of hormones and feelings, and Dr. Jacinta would put her head on her desk and weep for the sorrow of being a teenage girl. Also, I imagined, all I knew for sure was that she worried about me. Maybe it was the lingerie I wore as clothing, or the shade of lipstick, uterus I think it was called, or the knee-high thrift store boots I had dyed pitch black, more and more of the friendly brown leather peeping out every time it rained. It was probably cutters. None of the cutters was in my AP classes. I saw them only at lunch and after school. There was a hollow behind the library where we'd sprawl and talk and smoke and sometimes, in a ripe intimacy, cut our skin together. I don't think what we do is that crazy, I expostulated to Caleb, jabbing the air with half a Camel Light while keeping one eye on Jay. He was doing that gorgeous idiotic thing he always did, letting his hair tumble over his eye and blinking until his lashes were tangled in it. Liz, the new girl, was next to him. Liz was exquisite, androgynous. Her blue-black hair was somewhere between manga and abokat. It quivered now with her mechanical giggle, a sure sign that she was high. Caleb was likely stoned too, but he always seemed to think that he was listening to me and that what I was saying was related to whatever he was thinking, whether it was Y2K or his favorite movie, Blade. I know, yeah, right, he said, nodding. People do this sort of thing all the time for like political reasons. I took a drag. Hunger strikers, martyrs. Right. Caleb's nodding took on a hip-hop rhythm. Hello, I raised my eyebrow. He caught my eye and laughed. Nah, I'm totally with you, see. Cutting is totally political. Vampires too. They are like this underground, like force or conspiracy. Val suited over to us. She started whispering to me about Liz and Jay. I didn't want to hear about it, so I rolled up my sleeve and showed off a set of sketchy cuts. They fit perfectly in the grooves of my inner elbow. Oh, Caleb and Val could, disguising the cuts this way, hiding them in the nooks and cracks of our bodies. was what distinguished us from the damn goth kids you always read about. It had been my idea. Liz's jaw had jutted in a skeptical circle when it had first suggested it. No way. I rolled my eyes and said, well, I don't want to look like a fucking zebra, do you? Liz, whose forearms were already as lathered as torn stockings when she'd arrived at our school, had glared at me, but the others had laughed it off. Was devious. I know a half-black, half-white girl joking about zebras. I often did this, called myself an Oreo, or a African, or a mulatta, or a light-skinned, just to get it out of the way, to take control of a difference that could be wielded to hurt me. I did not feel tortured about it. It was kind of a power move. In the end, Jay had jumped in, his tongue rapid, his eyes blank. I think it would be cool to hide it. We could do our scalps, or between the toes, or at the knuckles, or behind the ears. Exactly, I'd said, feeling a rush of warmth to my stomach, even though Jay had not been looking at me when he'd said it, but at something he was shredding into the knot of his crossed legs. I will never forget this moment. Like I'll always remember the one time I made him laugh so hard that he teared up, his lashes thickening even more. I can never exactly recall the joke I'd thought up, though some pun about a spoon and egress. And Jay was stunned, and no one else found it that funny. But still, I kicked myself later for taking the precaution, a protective measure I use to this day, of saying that someone else had told me the joke. Watching Jay take pleasure in a joke I'd conjured had been ruined by not being able to claim it as my own. I remember this moment so well because they were my evidence that I was meant to cut with Jay and then F him. I had somehow bullied Dr. Jacinta into accepting this destiny. You catch each other. It's incredibly hot. I said this matter-of-factly, in total ignorance. I had never even heard of people doing this. I had made it up out of thin air, like the joke that worked. Also, I paused for suspense. I also really want to draw a picture in his skin, like a tattoo. He's part Korean. His skin would make such a beautiful canvas, you know? Dr. Jacinta's chin flinched as if she were throwing up in her mouth a little. Then she sniffed and slid her thin fingers under her glasses to dab at the dampness. It occurred to me for the first time that my therapist might just have allergies. She changed the topic, asked about my latest dream. Wayne and I had been picking mushrooms together at the base of a huge tree. He'd started running around like a hellion, stomping the mushrooms to smithereens, disintegrating the flesh of their gills over the ground. That struck Dr. Jacinta that they looked like flesh to me. I pulled out my dream notebook and read the rest of it to her. Wait, Wayne, I say. I kneel, putting my hands on my shoulders. You are dead. No, I am not. You scoff, you are still young. Your skin is smooth and brown. The whites of your eyes are spotless. Yes, you are. You are dead, I say. No, I am not. You insist. Pinch me. You stick out your arm so I can clip my index fingers and thumb around your skin. Oh, I say. See? You say. I looked up from my notebook. Dr. Jacinta nodded and explained to me again that these dreams weren't just dreams. They were a symptoms of what she called ambiguous loss, which is when there is a death but nobody, like the visions of the crumbling boy I'd had when it happened, she said. This was a structure of melancholia or bad mourning, a rhythm of loss and replacement that would endlessly repeat until I accepted Wayne's death. I didn't know how to accept death, though. I still don't, and I don't really care to. Death is quite literally unacceptable, unreasonable, unimaginable. Imagine death would presuppose a consciousness that death itself would negate. Dr. Jacinta nodded when I said all of this, but seemed irritated by my philosophizing. She changed the topic again. Have you spoken to your father recently? Nope, he's still in Savannah. Seeing this lawyer woman, I think she's Vietnamese or something. Also, I've decided that my mom can go F herself with this name thing. Over the years, my mother had become more shrill with the grievance, and now she had a new cause to latch onto. Her mother, my grandmother Rose, was dying. She was only in her 60s, but as long as I could remember, Grandma Rose had had cancer. It is almost my familiar, she would say with a sad smirk. She had lost both breasts to it early on, which in her ebullient way she had taken as an occasion to get fake tits 2 bra sizes bigger. Every time I visited her, I would forget to pack for how cold it gets in Northern California, and I would end up borrowing one of her sweaters, and we would laugh together at the loose pouches over my chest that Grandma Rose's silicone bulbs had stretched into it. Now the cancer was back and spreading. Whenever I came home from school or from Dr. Jacinta's, my mother would be sitting at the kitchen table, waiting for me to make yet another call to San Francisco. I resented this. Grandma Rose would pick up the phone, all cheery and snacky, sounding like the grandmother I knew and loved for all of 5 minutes, before disappearing into a quietness bred of pain, drugs, fatigue. Lately, my mother had been trying to get me on board with a name change on Grandma Rose's behalf. My mother wanted me to change my last name from my father's surname, Williams, to her maiden name, Lockett, which would otherwise soon be lost, as she was Grandma Rose's only child. It's the least you can do, Cassie, my mother said. We don't even have to change it officially. You could just start using it. We could tell your teachers, your friends. But I like the name Williams. Lockett, it's so symbolic. You'd think you could do this one thing to honor your grandmother's line. Grandma Rose doesn't even want me to. It's not even her real name. It's her ex-husband's name. I never even met him. I was pacing the kitchen, clearing plates and washing mugs and wiping counters. I often cleaned while we argued. It contained things. It's my maiden name. My mother crossed her arms, a parody of indignations. You take it then. You know perfectly well why I can't take it. Why not? He has to be able to find us. For a moment, I thought she meant my father and was stung with guilt, but then I realized that this was absurd. Of course, my father knew how to find us. He'd moved to Savannah, not Mars. No, my mother meant Wayne. Rage rose in me and I picked up and threw the nearest thing, a dish towel that made a disappointing poof against the counter. This was the oldest of my mother's missions, to be ready always for her dead boy's return, to be vigilant. I had quit trying to convince her that this was impossible years ago. I knew my role. I knew by now to lie. I calmed myself as Dr. Jacinta advised by counting to 10, then sat at the table next to my mother. She was crying. Don't worry, Mom. He will find us. The words were like gutter wash in my mouth. It's like swimming. You stroke and kick to get to the uttermost edge of the wave. You feel the momentum. Go on, go on, go on. But always something tugs you back into the scoop water, the furrows, those relentless grooves. This is the incomplete, repeated shape of it. Sail into the brim of life. Sink back into the cave of death, again and again. Around then, I began to insist on both Williams and C, which I used to avoid the awkwardness of not knowing whether the second syllable of Cassandra should rhyme with sang, the white pronunciation, or with song, the black one. I also began to practice my signature. Now, as an adult, scratching random lines at the bottom of rent checks and credit cards receipts, I often marveled at how much rehearsal I put into this obsolescent skill. But if required to sign something more important, a will, a legal document, I know my fingers have the blood of that movement coursing through them. That body knowledge how to sign C. Williams into legitimacy. At 17, that last year of high school, my signature became my standard doodle, littering envelopes, books, folders. I once even cut it in miniature with a safety pin and a mirror into the back of my knee. Jay saw it. I was lying on my belly in the hollow, pretending to read Proust, while the other cutters laced and joshed around me. A cool finger ran across the scab, puckered skin under my hem. I looked back and saw Jay kneeling beside my splotchy thrift store boots. He glanced at our friends, licked his finger, and ran his finger again across the signature. I'd aged, a transitive kiss. He winked slowly, and I saw a new cut above his eyelid. I winked back the only way I knew how, by closing both eyes and opening one. He stood and strode off the sunlight, hugging to him a perfect fit. A couple of days later, the phone rang. I picked it up in the kitchen. See, yeah, the expectant silence was an empty corridor. I felt a chill and a warmth all at once. It was Jay. Oh, I'm high. I'm high, he echoed me, mocking me but in a kind way. He'd never called me on the phone before. So, remember how we were talking the other day? My blink in reply to his wink. Did that count? There had been another encounter. I had bumped into him in the hall, and my chewing gum had dropped from my mouth onto the toe of his Doc Marten. We'd both stared at it for a second before I bent sheepishly to pluck it off. In my hurry to make it disappear, I had made it worse by popping it back into my mouth. Oops, I blurted and raced off to gym class, trailing disgrace like exhaust fumes. Yeah, I remember, I said cautiously. I really liked what you said. I smiled and picked up a pen and signed the back of the yellow pages on the counter. I thought I could hear him smiling back through the phone. I liked what you said too, I said. I signed the yellow pages again. The silence clicked wider, like someone had cracked a window in the corridor. Ma'am? I asked, aghast. She had picked up the receiver in the living room. Hello? Oh, sorry, she said. I need to make some vigil calls. Cassie. Hi, Val. Jay laughed. Whoops, that's not Val, my mother said. Mom, I cried. I hung up. Ugh, I said, curling my fist around the pen and stabbing the phone book with it. What? My mother said knowingly. She and I berated each other over the phone, our voices echoing in real time from the adjoining rooms. This was our way, a normal quarrel, darkening quickly with everything between us. Eventually, the whining dial tone broke up into a plaintive beeping, but we gave up, shouting only when the lady came on the line and politely advised us to please hang up and try again. Dear Wayne, we are in the mall, in the food court. The skylight above is murky. The seated customers stare at us, slack-jawed, limp-handed, their food lumped on red trays. We are on a stage of some kind. You are in a suit and a top hat, a dapper 7-year-old. I'm in a cardboard box, my head popping out one side, my legs out the other. This feels normal, allowed, a magic show. You make an announcement to the audience, secretly pinching my thigh, so I know that you are here, and you know that I am here. There's clapping. You lean over my face and whisper in my ear. Ready? I nod. Wait, when did you come back? I never left. Relief washes up my spine, from my tailbone to the top of my head. Wait, I say. Is this a... I look up at you. You are pointing a gun toward the skylight. It's black and heavy and too big for your small brown hand. Don't worry, see, you say without looking at me. It's just roses. And my heart beating hard, a pure absent moment, a gap in the weave, solace. He is alive, then loss, sharp and smooth, piercing through, pulling a thread of rage behind it. He is dead. 1 second, then another, each stitching me back into time, into a before and an after, and no faults. The dreams all had different tones and intervals, but the same beats, like a knock, knock joke, or a backward knock, knock joke. First the punchline, I am back, and then variations on the hook, who's back, and finally the knock knocking again, the inside of my ribs. I tried to case myself back to sleep, but then a real knock came to my bedroom door. Come in, I slurred. My mother stepped into the room, clutching a big book with both her hands. It was the phone book, my doodles like inky lesions on the cover. She was going on and on. How could you? How dare you? Do you think it is funny? What are you talking about? I warmed myself out of bed, walked over and lugged the phone book from my mother's hand into the cradle of my own forearm. I looked down at it. I don't get it. My eyes and voice were still furry with sleep. It's a phone book. Why would you do this, Cassie? Mom, it's a doodle. It's my signature. I know it's not Locket, but it's not your name. God damn it. I stared at it, seeing nothing but my own handwriting. My mother grabbed the phone book out of my hands again, and it flexed in a thick curve, its pages clinging like layers of skin. She held it up and took 1 step back. 2, and there it was. What's his name? Walks on water. The word we no longer said to each other. Wayne, 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 it said. Enormous across the cover in witchy letters. I gasped. She slammed the book on the floor and walked out. I had a moment of suspicion. I remembered those plagiarized stick figures she had drawn behind the furniture after Wayne died, but there was no denying my handwriting or his name. I had absolutely no memory of writing it. I still don't. I suppose I must have scrawled it there while deep in the heady distraction of a boy on the phone. He called only once more, months later. See, hey. We breathed in the staticky stillness. I worked a kink out of the spiraled cord. I wanna rape you. He said it as if it weren't the first time he'd said it or thought it, like it was rehearsed. Pleasure imploded in the base of my belly. I was so shocked by the feeling that I hung up, but it was a scene I began to rehearse whenever I touched myself. It would be many years more before I realized that it had been Caleb who had called me. Caleb who had wanted me, who had wanted to rape me. Goofy stoner Caleb. All that time, I had thought my secret phone admirer was Jay, who continued to flirt with me unrepentantly, even as he managed to get Liz knocked up by the end of the senior year. They had a shotgun wedding that summer. I went, of course. I drank with them and toasted them and hated them and never spoke to those people again. Over time, I knew all of them would sour inside their flawless skin like waxed fruit at the supermarket. Dear Wayne, your foot's in the cast, like the time you got it stuck in the spokes of your bicycle and twisted your ankle. An accident, you explained as we walk along the sidewalk at dawn. You are on crutches, swinging beside me with the rhythm of a veiled animal. Wait, I glanced down at your heart-shaped hairline. You are dead, aren't you? Everybody thought I was dead. You correct me pedantically. I was just away on a trip. A trip? Yeah, you say. This is our reunion. Wait, I turn to you. What? This is another dream, isn't it? No. You shake your head. A sitcom kid. All exasperation. I'm alive, obviously. You prop yourself on one crutch and stick your arm at me. Give me a look. Pinch me. I know you want me to feel your flesh. It is teeming, living thickness, but I won't. Not this time. You shrug and give a laugh, quick and reticulated as a cat's paw. You swing on ahead of me into the gaping light over your shoulder. You call out once, a mockingbird. You are nuts, you say, and I believe you.